I want to do a survey before I get started. So how many of you are owners or operators of salons? A few. And how many are owners and operators of brands? And how about retailers? What did I miss? Distributors. Schools. Okay. What have I missed? Anything else? How many are hair care focused? Skin care focused? Cosmetics? Okay, great. So I spent 20 years, as Kelly has for the past 14 years, advising companies like you all and others on exit strategies. And those exit strategies were all of the waterfront of what you saw Kelly go through, from a private equity investment to a public offering to a purchase by a strategic buyer. And my experience was that typically it was a catalyst that drove an exit strategy, that by and large the businesses were not ready for an exit. There was a catalyst that brought an exit to their doorstep, and then kind of all hell broke loose. So what I learned over the course of time was the most important thing about exiting was when you enter a business, when you launch a business, have in mind where you're taking that business, at least directionally, and manage your business aggressively to be independent. Because the best business to acquire is the one that never has to be sold. So my perspective is based on having been an advisor, and then 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I did something crazy, which was to partner with a partner, raise some money, and come into this industry as an operator. So what I'll do is give you a perspective on having been an architect of exit strategies, having been an operator in executing exit strategies, and use a couple of case studies to do that. Turn it up. Is that better? Any better? I'll shout. No? Is that better? Any better? I'll try to speak up. So the next slide is the architecture of exit I'd like to describe. So your competitive strategy, typically you're focused on what's my brand strategy, what's my operating strategy, what's my growth strategy, maybe how I'm going to fund my business. Rarely we focus on what I call the parade of horribles, the risks in the business, because we're all optimistic and entrepreneurs. And even more seldom do we focus on our own wealth strategy. So tax planning, organizational structure, prenuptial agreements with partners, and the like. And almost never, in my experience, has there been a real focus as you're running your business on where am I going on exit. The exits that I'm going to focus on today are principally the sale to the strategic buyer, the sale to the financial buyer, and the public offering, although I suspect that there are very few at this stage in this audience public offering candidates, although if there are, please feel free to prompt me in that regard. And what I'm going to do is focus on a couple of case studies that I was actively a part of to illustrate the opportunities and challenges of managing an exit. So leaving this slide, it's critical that you be thoughtful about what your exit strategy is, your alternatives, your time frames, your paths, your conduits, and organize your business in a way that you fit with those exits. I'm going to talk about a situation I was involved with respect to the exit of the Hair Club for Men. So for 30 years, the Hair Club for Men was a toupee business for men via late-night infomercial, where the dream was to transform from the client on the left to the client on the right. The owner-founder operated this business for 30 years, most of those quite successfully, until the market changed. And he was forced to sell his business. He was forced to exit his business because he had not engineered his business in a way as it was operated to provide for exit on his terms. What had happened to the Hair Club was that the world changed, the market changed. So for many, many years, the only option for a man losing his hair was to cover up the loss. What had transpired, and this was in the 2002 time frame, and I came on as architect with the new owners of the business to engineer the exit strategy. What had happened was the demographics had changed. We'd gotten older. The women's market had emerged. So no longer was it just covering it up with a wig. There were all kinds of technologies, drugs, lasers, all kinds of things emerging for solutions for hair loss, restoration, replacement, and prevention, importantly prevention, that never before had existed. And so what we had to do was get in the way of what was happening in the marketplace and transform that business from a single product, a toupee, to a single demographic, an aging male, via one channel, a late-night infomercial, and an 800 number, into a business that could exit. In order to have in mind, or in order to construct that strategy, the rule number 4, I've passed by rules 1, 2, and 3, is rule number 4 was you need to know who your enemies are. You need to know who your predators are, and you need to organize your business in a way that mitigates your exposure to those enemies. So who are the potential enemies? They are competitors, they're customers, they're suppliers, they're potential entrants, and you need to understand what makes them tick, what drives their business, what they care about, how they invest, who runs the business. And in our case, the predators, if you will, were Adirond's with their Bosley business, which was a surgical transplantation business, and with, on a prospective basis, Regis. There were other small regional operators, and there was the prospect for private equity entering the market to do a roll-up and consolidation. But the key predators for us really were Adirond's and Bosley, and potentially Regis. So we had to understand those enemies. We had to have a clear analysis and understanding in our competitive strategy of what made them tick. As well, we need to understand our exits. What were our paths to exit, and how do we organize our business to be in a position to exit on our terms, offensively, at maximized value, in complete control. So we needed to understand what those paths were and actually document, pressure test, role play those exits. For us, the likely exits were Adirond's, which was a strategic competitor, Regis, which was not, but could be, private equity and public equity. We used private equity and public equity, positioned those as what I call stalking horses for a complete exit that we felt like was much more likely tailored to maximize value, as Kelly described, through a transaction involving Regis. Interestingly, at the time, Regis was not aware of our view, of our strategy. But in looking at Regis, they were a global salon operator. They had grown by consolidation, so they were a consolidator. They were a public company. They needed growth vehicles. They were running out of room, of white space, if you will, in consolidating salon chains. And this was a platform that was highly fragmented, very profitable, and fit with the dynamic of the business Regis was in. Importantly, Regis processed 160 million transactions through their point-of-sale system. Many of those had a hair loss orientation. The next rule was you've got to run your business to be able to be competitive with all of your enemies. And as I said earlier, the best business for sale is the one that's not for sale. The best business to be sold is the one that's not for sale, and where a prospective buyer comes to you on a basis that you're ready to execute. So we had to transform our business to be something that was strategic, that made sense for the exit markets, that was profitable and valuable to those exit markets, and that was big enough to matter. So we transformed a toupee business into all proven solutions for hair loss. Importantly, restoration, replacement, and prevention for men and women. And we did so utilizing technologies that had emerged, like the internet and smartphones and the like. We introduced drugs and surgical transplantation, hair loss regimens for women, wet lines, in order to create a solution provider as opposed to just selling stuff. Interestingly, you may remember Andre Agassi with all his hair. That was our hair. That wasn't his hair. He married Steffi Graf, and she liked the left side versus the right side. But there are amazing things that could be done, as this illustrates. The next rule is be ready to engage. Always run your business ready to exit. That means document your business, account for your business, position your business in a way that you are ideal for the various exit markets at any point in time, such that when that catalyst occurs, you are in position to execute. So you need to act like the entities that you believe you want to exit to and through. You need to report. You need to account. You need to prepare your data. You need to document your value. You need to document your business plan. And our experience is get in the way of those entities that you want to exit to or through. In our case, it was Regis, and be a nuisance. The next and last rule is when the exit process starts, manage it aggressively and offensively. Be in a position to manage your exit in a way that you control the process. Whether you're a small business dealing with a large business or a business going public, manage the business offensively. And that means be ready before you launch. No shoot, ready, aim. It's be ready, have analyzed your exits, know your enemies, run a great business, and once the process starts, be ready to execute, because exit strategies are, in the best case scenario, disruptive, and in certain cases can be destructive. So you need to be very offensive as to how you manage the business, and that's how we manage the exit to Regis. So the outcome was, in managing this exit, we had 12 bids for the company, all within a 10% or so range. Regis was the high bidder. We had positioned Adirans as a stalking horse for Regis and the public markets as a stalking horse for a strategic sale. For us, we got a valuation that was 2 times what we had as shareholders and a board been targeting to get. Regis, on the other hand, had a very strong outcome with the markets being very receptive to this transaction with their equity value going up. You see on the left-hand or right-hand side of the page, what Regis reported was this transaction for us was strategic. It made sense. It's a new growth vehicle for us that we can leverage to continue our public company growth strategy, and it's a platform that can help us as a public company to realize tremendous value over time. So that was with respect to that transaction, starting with a toupee business, transforming that business into a solution provider for hair loss restoration, replacement, and prevention, utilizing all the technologies that had emerged, and positioning the exit to where we saw the ideal prospective partner for the business. And that business has continued on as a very strong part of the Regis platform. The last case study I'll leave you with is that we sold Regis. It was a great outcome. It was good for everybody, and so we decided we'd do it again. This way, in a much more focused, we thought or hoped, and to the 8 rules, executed strategy. So we saw an opportunity to integrate salon and retail. Ulta had done it to some extent, but we saw the opportunity to combine great product and technology with service to create a solution provider. We analyzed the market, what she wanted. We looked at the competitors. We understood our markets. We understood the opportunity. We had to create something big enough to matter, which was a $120 million business, putting 2 businesses together. We transformed that business into a solution provider, introducing diagnostic technologies, medical directors, the right brands, the right service, investing in our salons, putting the right product on the back bar that we wanted to sell out the front, having loyalty programs and client relationship management technologies, and all of the available weapon systems that were in the market. And we looked at our exits. Our exits were Bath & Body Works. They were potentially LVMH and Sephora. They could have been Ulta. They were an IPO. They were private equity. And again, they were our friends at Regis. We positioned this business, again, relative to Regis's need because they were suffering with their trade secret division. And what we created was a solution provider that could transform the trade secret business. And that was the takeaway. One day in December 2008, the CEO of Regis, who is an icon in the industry, called us to say, I need you guys to come see me. And 39 days later, because we were ready and had been a nuisance and poking at Regis, we consummated that transaction at a very substantial result, having transformed 2 regional salon chains into what Women's Wear Daily recognized as the specialty retailer of the year. So again, what we did is we saw an opportunity in the marketplace that wasn't being filled, created what didn't exist, managed the business as if we would sell it to Regis or take it public. Very disciplined, very focused, got a little lucky in certain respects, and we closed that transaction before this recession hit, which was amazing timing for us that we never could have done if we hadn't been ready. So those are a couple of case studies on what we've been through, a broken field run through those experiences. Perhaps we can follow up in Q&A, but to give you a perspective on know your exit strategy when you go into your investment before you launch, ideally. If you've already launched, which most of you have, then focus on it now and bake it into what you do every day to drive your business as an independent business, putting yourself in the way of those exit strategies that make sense for your long-term wealth creation strategy and your positioning of your business in the market. Thank you.